Imagine everyone in your school lost their allowance on the same day. Now multiply that by 15 million adults. On a Tuesday in 1929, America woke up rich and went to sleep poor on Thursday. Kids stopped going to school because they had no shoes. Families lived in shacks made of cardboard boxes. And the craziest part? It all started because adults were playing Monopoly with real money. This is the story of how the United States broke so badly it dragged the world down with it. And yes, I'm going to explain it like you're 5 years old. The United States, the 1920s. They called it the Roaring Twenties, and it was roaring, like your cousin after 3 pieces of birthday cake. Everyone had money. Or at least they thought they did. Daddy, we bought a new car. Son, we bought 3 new cars. And we're buying stock tomorrow. Radios in every home. Cars in every garage. Parties every night. Ordinary people became rich overnight by buying little pieces of companies, called stocks. But you know that playground seesaw moment when everyone piles onto one side? That was exactly what was happening. Let's start at the beginning. How does real money work? Imagine you have a lemonade stand. You make lemonade, sell it for 50 cents, and buy more lemons with that money. Simple, right? But what if I said, hey, let me give you $100 now, and you pay me back $110 when you sell lemonade tomorrow? You'd say yes. Free money today. There's just one problem. What if no one buys your lemonade tomorrow? Welcome to the concept of credit. Money you don't have yet, but you promise to pay back later. In the 1920s, everyone was doing this. Banks loan money to everyone. No questions asked. Like giving your younger sibling your video game without supervision, you know it's going to go wrong. People took this borrowed money and did what? Bought more pieces of companies on the stock market. And this is where the craziness started. The more people bought stocks, the higher the price went. And the higher it went, the more people wanted to buy. It was like those kitten videos, the more views, the more the algorithm pushes them, the more views they get. But a stock isn't a kitten video. It's a piece of a real company. And those companies weren't growing as fast as the prices. It was a snowball rolling down a mountain. And at the bottom of the mountain? A cliff. Let's jump back to 1924. America was recovering from World War I. Enter the bubble. You know when you're playing tag and everyone gets so excited they run faster and faster until someone gets hurt? That was it, but with grown-up money. The stock market, a place where people buy and sell little pieces of companies, was having a party. Between 1924 and 1929, the value of stocks quadrupled. Like turning $1 into $4 just by waiting. This is where everyone got their first taste of easy money, real power, and unrestrained greed. They learned to buy stock using something called margin. Let me explain with lemonade again. You want to buy 10 lemons for $10, but you only have $1. The bank says, relax, I'll lend you the other $9. You pay me later. You make the lemonade, sell it for $20. You pay the bank the $9, you keep $11 profit. Magic. But what if the lemonade is only worth $5 the next day? You still owe the bank $9. Now you're in the hole. In the 1920s, people were buying stocks by paying just 10% of the value. The other 90%? Borrowed. And no one thought the price could fall. After all, it had always gone up for the last 5 years. It was like betting it will be sunny every day because it was sunny all week. Eventually, it rains. Enter the concept of speculation, buying something not because it's worth that much, but because you think someone else will pay more tomorrow. Like Pokemon cards. You don't buy it to battle. You buy it because you think the next kid will pay more. And he buys it because he thinks the kid after that will pay even more. Until no one else wants to buy. And suddenly, your $100 card is worth $5. People were buying stocks in companies that barely existed. Radio companies that didn't make radios. Car companies that didn't have a factory. Yet the prices still went up. Why? Because everyone believed it would keep going up forever. Some smart guys started warning, folks, this doesn't make sense. These companies aren't worth this much. Guess what happened to them? They were called spoilsports. Pessimists. They were told to chill out. It's like warning your friends that jumping off the roof into the pool is dangerous and they respond, relax, we've done it 50 times and it worked. Until the 51st time. Splash. On the hard ground. And the splash came on a Tuesday in October 1929. September 1929. The stock market was at the top. But a few smart adults started to realize the problem. They looked at the numbers and thought, wait, this company sells 100 shoes a month. Why is it valued as if it sold 1,000? And they did something clever, or selfish, depending on how you look at it, they sold everything. When you sell your stock, someone needs to buy it. And if too many people sell at the same time, the price starts to fall. October 24, 1929. Black Thursday. Imagine the school fair. You're selling slime for $5. Suddenly, 20 kids start selling slime at the same time. Now no one wants to pay $5. They offer $3. Then $2. Then $1. You panic. I need to sell before it's worth zero. And when everyone thinks that at the same time. Chaos. On the New York Stock Exchange, that's exactly what happened. People were screaming to sell. Telephones rang nonstop. Paper flew. Adults were crying. Yes, crying. In one day, the market lost $14 billion. At the time, that was more money than the US government spent in an entire year. But some optimists said, calm down, everyone, it was just a scare. It will be back to normal tomorrow. A lie. Monday, October 28th. More drops. Tuesday, October 29th. Black Tuesday. The worst day in stock market history up to that point. Another $30 billion evaporated. Like burning a pile of cash the size of the Empire State Building. People who were rich on Monday were broke on Tuesday. Millionaires became literal beggars overnight. And here comes the part that turns a crash into a depression. Remember everyone had bought stock with borrowed money? Now, the banks called. Hey, you owe us $9,000. Pay by tomorrow or we're taking your house. But I don't have $9,000. My stock was worth that, but now it's worth $500. Not my problem. Pay up or lose everything. Thousands of families lost everything. House, car, life savings. Poof. Gone. But it gets worse. Much worse. Because people didn't just have money in stocks. They had money in banks. And the banks? They had loaned that money to people to buy stock. Stock that was now worth nothing. So the banks no longer had the customer's money. Imagine you lend your toys to your friend. He lends them to another friend. That friend loses everything. When you ask for your toys back, where are they? Gone. And when people discovered the banks didn't have their money, guess what they did? They ran to the bank. All at once. Screaming, I want my money back. This is called a bank run. And it's like when everyone tries to exit the same door at the same time, someone gets hurt. In 1930, over 1,300 banks closed. Broke. Vanished. People literally woke up and the bank on the corner had a sign, closed forever. And the money they had saved there? Lost. There was no bank insurance. If the bank disappeared, your money disappeared with it. It was like keeping your coins in a piggy bank and waking up to an empty piggy bank. 1930 to 1933. The darkest years. What started as a rich adult's problem on the stock market became everyone's nightmare. Because companies need bank money to operate. When the banks broke, the companies broke too. Factories closed. Stores closed. Farms abandoned. And when companies close, what happens to employees? Unemployed. In 1933? 25%. 1 in every 4 adults out of work. 15 million people jobless. And here it gets painfully real, families couldn't buy food. Bread lines miles long, people waiting hours for a piece of bread and a cup of soup. Children stopped going to school because they had no shoes. Literally. In the cold winter. Entire families living in shacks made of cardboard, scrap metal, and wood. They called these shanty towns Hoovervilles, a jab at President Herbert Hoover, who wasn't doing anything to help. Newspapers became blankets. They called them Hoover blankets. Empty pockets turned inside out? Hoover flags. People made jokes because if they didn't laugh, they'd cry. Farmers had another problem, too much food. They planted tomatoes, but no one had money to buy them. So the tomatoes rotted in the field. They poured out milk because it wasn't worth transporting, no one could afford it. Meanwhile, in the city, children were starving. There was food. But there was no money circulating to buy it. It's like having a full fridge but being grounded and not allowed to eat anything. Only worse. Because it wasn't a grounding. It was the reality for millions. In 1932, the situation was so desperate that World War I veterans, soldiers who fought for America, marched on Washington, D.C. They wanted a bonus the government had promised. About 43,000 people camped out in the Capitol. Entire families. With children. Guess what President Hoover did? He sent the army to drive them out. With tanks. Tear gas. Bayonets. American soldiers attacking American veterans. On American soil. Tents burned. Children crying. Families running. That day, many realized, the government isn't on our side. Inside the remaining homes, Families changed completely. Fathers who had always been strong providers now sat at the table with nothing to feed their children. Mothers sewed clothes from flour sacks because that was all they had. Children worked any odd job, shoeshine boy, newspaper seller, can collector, to help the household. At 8, 9, 10 years old, teenagers dropped out of school. Why study if there's no future anyway? The suicide rate skyrocketed. People jumping off buildings. Leaving letters, I can't take it anymore. At least my family will get the life insurance. Except many insurance companies also went broke. So not even that. Meanwhile, some of the rich remained rich. $1,000 dinners while families ate watery soup. And the government? Hoover insisted, the market will self-correct. We won't interfere. Like watching your house burn down and saying, the fire will put itself out, trust me. Presidential elections. Hoover tried to get re-elected with the slogan, prosperity is just around the corner. The American people looked around the corner. Nothing there. Just more misery. Enter Franklin Delano Roosevelt. FDR. He won the election overwhelmingly. And at his inauguration in March 1933, he said something everyone needed to hear, the only thing we have to fear is fear itself. And he proposed something radical at the time, the government will help. It was called the New Deal. Let's keep it simple. Problem 1, banks failing. Solution, government closes all banks for 4 days. Checks which ones are safe. Only reopens the good ones. And creates bank insurance, now your money is protected. People started to trust banks again. Problem 2, unemployment. Solution, government hires people to work. It created programs like the CCC, Young Men Planting Trees, the WPA, Adults Building Roads, Bridges, Schools, the TVA, bringing electricity to the countryside. From 1933 to 1936, the government employed 8.5 million people. It wasn't charity. It was real work. With real pay. Problem 3, elderly and sick with nothing. Solution, created Social Security, public retirement. Now, when you get old, you get money from the government. It still exists today. Problem 4, kids working instead of studying. Solution, labor laws. Banned child labor in factories. Created a minimum wage. Limited work hours. Companies hated it. They called FDR a socialist, communist, dictator. But the families? They could finally breathe. But not everything was perfect. Far from it. Many programs excluded black Americans. In the US South, segregation was still law. Many benefits only reached white people. Farmers were paid to produce less, to make prices go up. Meanwhile, people were starving. The logic didn't make sense, but that was the system. And the Depression didn't end quickly. It took years. In 1939, 10 years after the crash, unemployment was still 17%. What really ended the Great Depression? World War II. Suddenly, factories were running again producing weapons, planes, tanks. Millions were drafted into the army, fewer people looking for jobs. Sad, but true, war ended the crisis that peace couldn't solve. By 1945, when the war ended, the economy was growing again. Not like the 20s, a fake growth. But real, sustainable growth. Did people learn their lesson? Some did. Many didn't. But something changed forever, the government would never be so small and absent again. People now expected the government to do something when things went wrong. Before the Great Depression, every man for himself. Afterward, we are a society. So, what can a 5-year-old learn from all this? Lesson 1. Money isn't magic. Those people in the 20s thought they had discovered infinite money. Buy stock, it goes up, sell, repeat. But money comes from real work. From making things people need. When everyone is making money without doing anything useful. Watch out. It's a bubble. And a bubble always bursts. Lesson 2, borrowing can be dangerous. Buying things with money you don't have feels good. I have it now, I'll pay later. But later always comes. And if you can't pay, you lose everything. Credit is not free money. It's loan money. Big difference. Lesson 3, when one falls, everyone falls. The Great Depression started with rich people losing money on the stock market. It could have stopped there. But it didn't. Because everything is connected. Rich people lost money, they stopped buying. Stores lost customers, they closed. Employees lost their jobs, they stopped buying. More stores closed, more unemployment. It's the domino effect. That's why the economy is like a giant seesaw, it needs balance. Lesson 4, greed is blinding. In the 20s, everyone saw the signs. Prices rising too fast. Weak companies worth fortunes. People buying with money they didn't have. But no one wanted to stop. Just a little more. Just one more profit. It's like eating candy. 1 is good. 10 makes you sick. 100? Hospital. Lesson 5, Government Matters. When Hoover said let the market fix itself, things got worse. When FDR said we are going to do something, things got better. It doesn't mean the government solves everything. But in a big crisis, you need a responsible adult in charge. And here's the scary part, the Great Depression happened because adults were greedy, bought things with borrowed money, and thought the party would last forever. Sound familiar? 2008, the housing crisis. Same story. People buying homes with borrowed money. Banks lending recklessly. Everyone thinking prices would rise forever. Crash. Millions lost everything. Again. In 2021 to 2022? Cryptocurrencies, NFTs, meme stocks. Same mindset, buy now, it only goes up. Easy money. Many people lost everything. Again. It seems humans have short memories. Or maybe greed is stronger than fear. The difference today? We have safety nets that didn't exist in 1929, unemployment insurance, bank insurance, social security, assistance programs. That's why when crises happen now, they don't turn into a depression. They become a recession. Bad, but not apocalyptic. But what if those lessons are forgotten? What if those protections are dismantled? Well, you just learned what happens. So yes, I explained the Great Depression as if you were 5 years old. But the truth? Even adults don't completely understand it. Because economics isn't just numbers. It's human behavior. Fear, greed, hope, despair. The Great Depression wasn't caused by bad math. It was caused by bad choices. And the scary part? We are human. Humans make the same mistakes over and over. But here's the hopeful part, those families in 1933? They thought the world had ended. But it hadn't. They rebuilt. Together. They created better laws. Better systems. A slightly fairer society. Not perfect. But better. So the final lesson, the one I hope stays with you, crises happen. They always have. They always will. But humans are resilient. And when we work together, when we care for each other, when we learn from mistakes, we survive. And we become stronger. The Great Depression was one of the worst things that happened in modern history. But it also taught us that no crisis is too big if we face it together. If you actually understood this with a 5-year-old mindset, congrats, you're smarter than a lot of adults. Let me know in the comments, which lesson from the Great Depression do you think we've forgotten today? And if you want more economic history explained simply, subscribe. Because the next one? It's about how printing money can destroy an entire country. Spoiler, it involves wheelbarrows full of cash buying a loaf of bread. See you next time.